show you how to make a graduation topper for your cakes. To start, I have Gumtex powder, Tylose powder, CMC powder. It's all basically the same thing. This is mixed into all of my fondant. I only use marshmallow fondant. Marshmallow fondant mixed with the Tylose powder sets up a lot harder, and it's so much easier to work with. It makes your fondant stretchy, and it's really going to allow that square piece on the top to set really hard. Now I have this fondant on a cake box lid. It's just easier to transfer, but you can see how thick I rolled it out. It's about a quarter of an inch thick, and I have this sheet of paper here, and it's about 5 inches by 5 inches, and I am just putting that on top of the fondant and cutting that out, and I transferred it onto a cutting board, and I'm using my rulers just to make sure that it is in a perfect square, and I'm going to set that aside for 24 hours to dry. And now I have some marshmallows. This is 10 ounces of marshmallows in a greased bowl. I'm going to put that in the microwave to melt them for about a minute and a half and stir them. And I'm just adding Rice Krispies. So I'm just eyeballing it. There's no rhyme or reason to this recipe. I'm just adding these Rice Krispies until I get it to the proper consistency. You don't want it too marshmallowy because it's not going to set up, and you don't want to have too many Rice Krispies because then it won't hold together. Now my hands are always clean when I'm handling this. This is going on top of a 6-inch cake, so I have a 6-inch cake pan. That countertop is clean, and I just got those Rice Krispies out of there. I'm rolling them into a ball, and then what I want to do is smack it on the countertop to get it flat on the bottom. So I'm giving it kind of like a half sphere shape, and then I put it on top of the cake pan to make sure that it fits. Sprinkle down a little cornstarch on that cutting board so it doesn't stick, and I'm going to set that aside for 24 hours so it can really dry hard. Now, it has been 24 hours since I made that top piece, and what I want to do is flip it over so the back side can get exposed to the air and really start to dry out. I like to make this top piece about 4 or 5 days in advance. Every day I'm going to flip it over and then flip it over the next day so it can dry from the front and back and dry really hard because it has that Tylose powder mixed into it. So let's set that aside. Now again, I'm washing my hands. My hands are always clean when I'm handling these. That sat out for about 24 hours, and I have this microplane here, and I'm going to shave off these bumps off of these Rice Krispies. That way when I cover it with fondant, it's not going to be a lumpy. So I'm just going over the entire thing to get rid of those bumps, take my hands and just get rid of all the crumbs and set that on the cutting board. And now I have some American buttercream, and I am just wiping this buttercream all over this piece and then dipping my hand in warm water and using my hand to smooth it out. I have found that using your hand is the easiest way to really smooth out that buttercream and get a smooth finish. Now I'm rolling out this black fondant, use my fondant smoother to smooth it out, and I am covering that Rice Krispie piece with the fondant, pull out the wrinkles and smooth it down. And then I'm taking my pizza cutter and just cutting the excess off and smoothing that with a piece of fondant that I dipped into some cornstarch. And I'm flattening the top where that square piece is going to go, and I'm going to set that aside for about 24 hours to dry. Now I'm rolling this fondant out really long for the border around the base of the cap using my ribbon cutter to cut a thin ribbon and straightening that out with my rulers. Now I have this styrofoam block and this clay gun with the smallest hole disc. And all of these tools that I used are linked in my Amazon store. And I'm lubing it up on the inside with a little bit of vegetable shortening. And then I put this marshmallow fondant in the microwave to get it really soft. And this is quite an arm workout. You have to press down on that top piece and squeeze the handle to get all of this fondant out. This is why your fondant has to be really soft in order to do this. So the tassel was supposed to be red and blue. So I did the same thing for both red and blue colors. And then I have to cut one of the strings of the blue and loop that around, and that's going to be the piece that holds the tassel on the top. I'm cutting a little circle out of that thicker black fondant and sticking that on the top. And then I'm trimming off these rounded edges to get pretty much the same length. I'm going to trim it a little later once I put it all together, and I'm alternating the colors, and then I gather them all together, and at the very top, I'm going to squeeze it so it holds its shape. And then I want to add a little hole there, so I'm taking my Dresden tool and poking a hole in there so I can easily slide that loop piece through the tassel. And that's how it's going to sit on the hat. Now I have to roll out the little metal piece that holds the tassel together, and don't come at me. I use this roller all the time. They don't make it anymore. You can get those lines in your fondant by just using that little wheel, but I'm going to press this on there to transfer that pattern. And I want to cut a long rectangle because I'm going to wrap it around the tassel. Now I have some Rolcom Super Silver mixed with some lemon extract, and I'm going to paint this silver. and get a little bit of water behind it, and I'm going to gently wrap it around the tassel, and I just want to trim the bottom so it's all even. And now I want to get my cake out of the refrigerator so that icing is cold and hard. I'm not going to mess it up. I'm putting 2 toothpicks in the bottom of that piece and getting a little bit of icing down and centering that down on the top tier. I got a little bit of water behind that long border that I cut earlier and wrapped it around there where it meets in the back. Just cut it and press that seam together. Now I need to shine this up. That looks a little dull, so I have some Crisco shortening. You can also use a steamer if you prefer. I don't have a steamer. I just like to do this method. The black fondant looked a little gray, so I just want to deepen the color. Now on the bottom part of that square piece, I'm adding some vegetable shortening as well to get rid of those cornstarch marks that are on there. And then I am taking a dry paper towel and just removing all of the excess shortening that's on there. It looks a little shiny right now, but that shortening is going to absorb in the fondant and it's going to look so much better as it sits. Now I have some black meltables. I'm only using like 2 wafers and microwave that until it's melted. And then I'm getting a little bit of that on that flat part of the hat. And then I want to take the square and press that down. I'm making sure one of the points is facing forward, and I want to make sure that it is flat and even. And I'm sticking a toothpick directly down the middle, hammering it down so just a little bit of it is sticking out. Get a little bit of water underneath that black circle and stick that in the middle. And now I'm taking more shortening on a paintbrush and just wiping this all over the top of that square piece and that little circle to deepen the black, and again taking a dry paintbrush and just removing the excess shortening. You don't want to press too hard, you don't want to distort it, just lightly wipe it away. And now I got a little bit of piping gel under the silver piece of the tassel so it stays on the hat. Remove the excess, and I loop that blue part around that black circle, and I'm just using a little bit more piping gel to get that in place. And here is the graduation cap. Look how pretty that is. And you can see how deep the black is once that shortening is reabsorbed back into the fondant. I did decorate it with a fondant 2024. You can decorate it however you choose. And here is the finished cake. Now, I don't always decorate it. Sometimes I like to just leave the grad cap plain, and you can do this in many different colors. And you can think outside of the box and do something like an apple or a softball as the base for the grad cap. I do have a video where I go into deeper detail on how I make this, and make sure you follow or subscribe for more cake decorating tips.